Hey, what's up, everyone? Kino here, back with a whole new reaction season, or another season of reactions to 6 Feet Under. So, what happened was I actually watched the first episode yesterday, and I was going to record, but then something came up, and I didn't get a chance to record. And then by the time it hit today, I was just like, I'm just going to watch the next one. So, this is the reaction to episodes 1 and 2, and I actually kind of glad I'm reviewing them together because they kind of fit pretty well together. It's not like a two-parter or something, but um, they fit nicely in terms of Nate's climax, Nate's like emotional climax. I talked before last season about how I felt like certain episodes didn't feel like they had a resolution to them, some of the storylines. And if I was just reviewing episode 1, I would feel the same way about Nate dealing with his AVM diagnosis, which is he could potentially have a stroke or an aneurysm and he could die, and he doesn't know when it's going to happen. So he's been dealing with that ever since the finale, and I felt like there was very much like it introduced this new plot point kind of out of nowhere, and in the final episode just kind of asked you to deal, like it's just like, oh, I guess this is something we're gonna deal with next season. But it didn't really feel complete. But in this episode he's dealing with it, his feelings about it. There's an athlete who died suddenly or minds above himself. um and I really like the ending here where he talked in episode 2, where he talks to David about it. He even thought about telling Brenda, but Brenda's been kind of not pulling away from him per se, maybe a little bit, but um, just kind of dealing with her own shit too. I don't really care for it either way, but I like that he turned to David. Like there is this real bond between the two of them that I think is um, really strong, and I like this ending. It's like it gets, you can still hear what he's saying a little bit as is pulling back, but it's getting quieter and quieter. And it's a really nice little ending where he like finally admits that he's scared and stuff like that. So I find it a very powerful moment, and that's what I'm talking about. There's nice resolution to this, like whereas just in episode 1 he's kind of dealing with it, but not. It doesn't really go anywhere. Yeah, I thought this was a nice moment here. Like David has sort of a storyline going in these 2 episodes, which does not have a climax yet, which is kind of heading there. But he is dealing with his loneliness, wanting to get back together with Keith. Um, Very weird how Keith keeps hanging out with him even though they're not together anymore while he has a boyfriend. I don't know. And it's not. I was gonna say maybe it's just like a gay thing or whatever, but like we also see that in this episode with Brenda. She's having dinner with her, the only guy she's ever been serious with, and I don't know. So it's kind of weird to me. Like, why are you guys meeting? There's no reason for you to interact with each other like this. It's a weird little storyline. I don't even know why they put it in here. Like, it's not even like Nate being jealous. It's almost Brenda's just depressed for some reason. I don't really know why. It doesn't really seem to be related to the brother. It's more so like she doesn't know what to do with her life now that the brother's not in her life. So I don't know. I don't like Brenda. I don't like her storyline. I don't know where we keep getting this. They keep bringing up this idea that Brenda's so smart. Like, she's so smart, Nate. You're so lucky to be with a girl that's smart. And I'm like, what has she done that shows she's smart? She's done plenty to show that she's kind of like crazy and selfish, but I've never seen any example of her being intelligent. Um, like, she's weird and she does kind of socially inappropriate stuff. Is that the writer's idea that she's so gifted she can't fit in with society? It's like, I don't. What are her accomplishments? What is this idea behind her? I guess the manipulation part, but I don't know. I've ranted so much about Brenda. Um, I hope they break up at some point and they just write her off this show, because I really don't like her and Nate. We got the mother having a relationship with that Russian guy. I don't know. It seems kind of weird. I don't really like it that much. Yeah, the mother's so funny. Like she's like Olivia Soprano, but if Livia was like good intentioned. Like she's kind of crazy a little bit, but like in a way that she actually does still care. Um yeah, it's the sister also has a little storyline with the that guy Gabriel. Um they he robbed a liquor store out of nowhere. And he's doing a bunch of crazy shit. I don't know if it's just because he lost his brother or whatever, but she breaks up with him at the end of this episode. I don't know where they're going with this. It feels like stuff that's happening, but it doesn't. I don't know if there's like an emotional or character moment for Claire in any of this so far. It's just she's like just dealing with this scumbag guy. So um, I don't know. Maybe there'll be a lesson in here, but um, yeah. I mean, it's not all these storylines have felt like complete episode to episode. Um, Nate's actually did this episode, and David's usually do. But either way, that's my thoughts on the first two episodes here. We'll get back to recording a normal episode to episode schedule after this. But thank you for listening, and stay tuned for the next reaction coming soon. Hey, what's up, everyone? Back with another reaction. Apologies, you might hear or see my dog running around. But just watched the third episode of the second season. And this episode was interesting from the perspective of Claire. I really feel bad for this girl. Like, she's so consistently ignored by the family. They have no idea what's going on in her life, and she just really doesn't know how to handle this situation that's come up with her boyfriend. And apologies, that sound of murder is my dog playing with her toy, but yeah, I just feel so bad for this girl. Like, she has, like, it just keeps getting worse and worse. And like at the end of this episode, she finally does tell the brothers what happened, especially because she still went to go pick up this guy when he needed her, and he pulled out a gun and shot at this guy. He's like just so completely fucked up. And she finally tells them, and I think they listen to her to an extent, but like they're so just like unconcerned with her. They're off in their own world, and even the mom too. Like, she's off dealing with her like the plan and trying to discover who she is. And I'm like, you still got an underage kid at home. You need to see her off through a little bit here. Like, goddamn. Like, and the mother, she even has this thing where she's like, F my kids and their dirty little secrets. And it's like, they have secrets. Well, at least Claire does, because you're so like unconcerned with her life. So yeah, I feel so bad for Claire, and we'll see how it goes with this with what's happening here. I really don't know where they're headed with this. I'm hoping she has a happy ending. I have a slight fear of what's going to happen to Claire in the future, because I talked about before, I don't really know any of the backstory of this show, but I know a little bit about Alan Ball because I read a book about all these television show creators, and I read that one of the things that inspired him was, I believe, the death of his sister. I think that's something that happened to him. So I don't know if they'll go down this route, but they're making Claire a very tragic character, I feel like. So I hope nothing bad happens to her in the future. Some of you guys might be like, being like, just wait, Keto, just wait. I don't know, but I'm hoping things work out for her, because I think she's a good kid at her heart, and I know I found her kind of annoying at first, but now I just find her so very, like, I want to help her. Like, someone needs to help this girl out. She needs it. We got David and Brenda drama. I think Brenda might be cheating on Nate with some guy, because she's trying to find herself, and I hate Brenda so much. I'm just so checked out of her scenes. I'm not interested in it. Nate's dealing with his AVM still. He doesn't have a whole lot of character moments this episode. David, I don't know. He's still wrestling, I guess, with his sexuality with the dad, with his vision about the dad or whatever. But overall, this episode, in terms of character moments, there wasn't a whole lot of stuff in there aside from Claire. But you know, we'll see where it goes from here. So, I know this is a short one. I don't have a lot to talk about. It's there in the episode, but hopefully the next episodes here will have some bigger, more dramatic beats that we can talk about. But either way, thanks for listening to this, and stay tuned for the next reaction coming soon. Hey, what's up, everyone? Back with another episode reaction. Just watched the 4th episode of season 2. And I really like this episode. In it, someone dies up in Seattle and they can't fly the body down, so Nate has to go up there, and he used to live in Seattle. And he takes Claire with him up there. It's a little bit of a bonding experience. It's actually really not the focus of the episode. Again, like, it's never about Claire. Nothing is ever about Claire in this show. She's always consistently ignored. Not that she's ignored by Nate. He does make an effort to bond with her more, which I appreciated, but the focus of their trip is not on Claire and Nate bonding. It's really about Nate. It's like this potential relationship he has with this girl up there who's in love with him. I don't know if they're gonna get together or not. It sounded like she might move to LA. I hope she does, and I hope he ends up with her instead of Brenda. I hate Brenda so much. And in this episode, Brenda has a little bit of a story too, with her mother. I'll say, I wish we had more scenes like this in the first season. I wish we could have made her more of a character, and I would have probably had more sympathy and empathized with her more than I do right now, because, like I said, I spent a season with her basically being this prop in Nate's story that's just very annoying. I still think she's very annoying, but if she'd actually been like a POV character, like I said, the first season we only ever saw her from Nate's perspective, so if we'd had more scenes like this with her by herself with her family, I think I'd appreciate her character a little bit more, or maybe I'd understand her more. But I probably still wouldn't like her. But you get a better understanding of why she is the way she is a little bit. Although it doesn't really make her likable more. There's very little that's actually likable about this character. She's just kind of annoying. And it's not even that she's cheating on Nate. She's not. I don't think she has. I think she's thinking about it, and I think she's just checked out. And I know she's wanting to be her own person, but like, fuck this like thing a lot of shows do, where it's like, in order to find out who you are and be your own person, you have to kind of go off on your own and fuck over the people who care about you and stuff like that. It's like, that's not true. It's bullshit. So I hope they break up, and Nate can move on, maybe with this girl, maybe with someone else. So who knows? But I don't like her. I don't want her in the show anymore. We have something with David. Keith's niece. He asked David to pick her up from school and watch her. Very rude girl, but you understand why she is that way, because her mother's like a drug addict. I liked the scene together. I thought David was very patient with her, and I think she likes him because of that. So I appreciated that kind of parental attitude from David. There's this weird scene at the end here. I liked it a lot, but I didn't quite understand it, where the mother was like kind of criticizing David's relationship with Keith as being confusing for the niece. And then David tells her to fuck off. It's such a weird moment, because they've been getting along so well, and this kind of moment comes out of nowhere. I didn't quite understand the mother's meaning. Was she like, you shouldn't be involved with Keith because you're not in a relationship? And it's like, it's like one of those. I do think that is inappropriate, given that Keith's in a relationship with Eddie, but is she like it's either like you either be together or don't be together, or was it like a gay thing? Was it kind of sounded like, because they had a discussion about being gay with the niece, and it kind of seemed like the mother was not cool with like, I'm okay with you being gay, but like don't bring it around children kind of thing, which maybe that is, I mean, a lot of people feel that way, so maybe that is how she felt about it, but I didn't quite understand it. It wasn't clear from the context to me what her actual meaning was. Like I said, I thought it was an interesting beat. I was like, I like, it was kind of, I like that David didn't back down this time. I like how he was like, you know, Mom, I love you, whatever, but fuck off. Like, um, it's a nice, it's a nice like realistic moment with this family where they're actually like real families. They kind of snipe at each other. Like I said, I don't quite know that I fully understand the meaning, but I just like the drama behind it. But I think David and Keith will probably get back together. Seems like it. Seems like it'd be good. Um, but yeah, I mean, overall, a solid episode. I thought this was actually pretty entertaining. Um, I felt like each of the characters, they had a little bit of an emotional conclusion. I know I keep harping on and on each season about this, of like the emotional climax of each episode, and I feel like we got that this one. So solid episode. Don't have too much more to say about it. I don't know. I feel like I'm not going into detail with a lot of these things, but there's not a whole lot for me to discuss. So we might keep these sections a little bit shorter than usual. Just depends on the episode. But either way, thanks for listening to this, and stay tuned for the next reaction coming up. Hey, what's up, everyone? Back with another reaction. Just watched the 5th episode of the 2nd season, The Invisible Woman. And this is an interesting. This is what I like to see when we have a funeral of the week episode, where the death really ties in thematically to what the characters are going through. It's very similar to House, if anyone ever saw that series, but like the case of the week that they would deal with usually had some thematic relevance that made the characters reflect on their own lives. And in the case of this woman, it really affects the mother. So this woman dies. She paid for her funeral years ago, and basically she's got no one in her life, and so they're struggling to kind of put things together. And the mother is worried that this is going to happen to her, that she's got no one. Now she has her 3 children, but as she says in this episode, she really doesn't feel that strong of a connection to them. There's not really intimacy there between them. For Nate and David, I kind of feel like that's justified, but for the daughter, I'm like, the reason you don't feel a connection with your daughter is because you ignore her. And again, I feel so bad for Claire. Like, she's got no one looking out for her. She's doing it all on her own. She has weird stuff with all the people in her life, like this friend and the psychiatrist who says there's sexual tension between them, which is really weird. I don't know. No one ever comments on like the inappropriate age relationships that all these men have with these young girls. Yeah, it's like the friend too, when she was sleeping with the scout leader or whatever. It's like everyone's just like, oh yeah, it's just these adult men sleeping with underage girls. I think they're like 16. I don't think they're like seniors and 18-year-olds, which I mean it would still be wrong, but like I don't know. No one ever calls this out as weird. Even when Claire thought that the psychiatrist was, or I don't know if he's a psychiatrist. I think he's just a therapist or a guidance counselor or something. But even when Claire thought that he was gonna sleep with her friend Parker, she even's like, go ahead, like just like she said she had STDs, but no, like there's no, I don't know. No one calls out how weird any of this stuff is. It's so strange. All the characters act super weird. We've got a storyline with David going out with this guy. It's Ben from Parks and Rec. But they have a slow they have a slow date. It's like that classic meme where it's like, I don't want to move too fast. I really like you. You're a nice guy, and then immediately goes and sleeps with the ex. Except this is the gay version of that. But I didn't care that much about that angle that David cheated on this guy, because I mean, it was their second date. Like, it's not like he was in a relationship for a long time like Keith is with Eddie. But um I don't know, Eddie's such a non-character. It's like, who gives a shit? Like, it's not like we're actually seeing characters that we know get cheated on. It's like, who gives a fuck? um I didn't think. I was like, okay, they've been building up this thing between Keith and David, but it's, I don't know. It just kind of, it feels like a nothing burger right now. It's like, oh yeah, they slept together and there's drama, but it's like, who cares? They also do this thing with Keith where he shoots some guy with a gun and he's all traumatized and he's like, "How could I do it? It was so wrong." And I'm like, the guy had a gun and was threatening to shoot that woman. You're completely justified in killing him. And no, not shooting him in the leg or something. It's like, he was turning on you. He might have shot at you guys. Like, this is not one of those cases where it's like, oh, police misconduct or whatever. He was just threatened. It's like, maybe if he was reaching into his pocket and Keith shot him, and um then it would be one of those justified things. Dude pulled out a gun on his girlfriend and was like, I'm about to kill you in front of the police. Like, this is not a moral conundrum at all. It's like, zero, you should feel zero guilt for that at all. um Nate and Brenda are gonna get married, I guess. I hate Brenda, so you guys know how I feel. She watches a prostitute have sex with. She watches one of her clients who's a prostitute have sex with this guy. I don't know what Brenda's storyline's all about. I get that it's about like her trying to find herself, whatever the fuck that means, but it's just such an obnoxious nothing storyline that I'm just like, oh god. I think they're gonna break up. I just, their relationship does not seem to be in a good spot. Um, Nate's, I guess, still dealing with his AVM or whatever. Still hasn't told her, but again, it's like she points out, it's like, because there's a real lack of intimacy between them. So, either way, that's the episode. I thought the mother storyline was particularly strong. The other three I thought were like, it's okay, but um, we'll see where more episodes go from here. So, either way, thanks for listening to this, and stay tuned for the next reaction coming up. Hey, what's up? Back with another reaction. Just watched the sixth episode, or no, yeah, sixth episode of season 2. We have the introduction of the sister of the mother, who we've heard stuff here and there that they didn't get along, but the mother reaches back out to her. She wants to reconnect, and it's a typical family drama stuff we've seen. The sister who stayed at home and did what she's supposed to do versus the sister who's like a free spirit and an artist, and she's jealous of her. I felt the storyline was a little like, okay, we've seen this, and then of course they have the makeup scene at the end. I didn't find it that like amazing. I was just like, okay, this is a pretty standard family drama story. The ending here with Claire and the mother showing her that she kept all the art and showing that she cares about her, I thought that was a touching little scene. My wife brought up an interesting question when she was watching it. So at the end of this episode, I don't know if this is going to be a plot point or not, but at the end of the episode, Claire's talking to a friend online, and my wife was like, who's she talking to? She doesn't have any friends. And I was like, you're right. Because she stopped being friends with Parker, at least as far as we know, unless they made up off screen or something. Gabe, she's not, talking to anymore. And my wife suggested that she was talking to the guidance counselor. It's the only other person in her life. But that would be kind of weird. But again, there's a whole lot of age inappropriate stuff in this show. Funny enough, in this episode, they talk about how one of the reasons why the mom hates the sister is when Nate went to stay with the aunt, when he was like 15, he lost his virginity to like a 32-year-old woman or something. And the mother's like, he was molested. And the aunt's like, he was a horny teenage boy. He wanted it. And it was good for him, blah, blah, blah. And look, I know there's going to be people who are like, yeah, a 15-year-old boy probably did want that or whatever, but there's other people who are going to be like, yeah, that's molestation, or that's, I honestly think that's too young. Like, I don't think a 15-year-old should be, even a boy should be having that kind of age difference. I just don't think that's healthy. Even if the boy wanted it and he didn't really feel traumatized afterwards, I think that would kind of screw with you a little bit to have that kind of be your first experience. So I don't know. The show's full of like apology for or they're kind of age inappropriate apologists. Claire has a ton of age inappropriate relationships. Nate did now. Um, I don't know if the show is trying to make a point about it. Like, is that why these kids are so screwed up? Is this why Nate is like the way he is? Because he's not really screwed up. I mean, he ran away from home. Not ran away, but he left. But it doesn't really. The show never really suggests that like him running away is traumatic or he was dealing with something. It just seemed like it's just the standard stuff that young people do sometimes, and he seemed like he was functioning at a pretty high level. Not in terms of like his career, but just in terms of like he had friends, he had love interests. Maybe that's why he can't settle down or something. But I don't know. I think I'm just reading too much into it. I don't think this series is suggesting that like this random side fact that they're only introducing like tangentially here. They're just like, oh yeah, Nate was molested. When you like, I don't think that's like a deep character thing that it's meant to recontextualize Nate or whatever. I think it's like, yeah, I think whoever wrote this like doesn't see that as a big issue. So I don't know, just a weird little thing about this show. Nate and Brenda are getting married, although she cheats on him by jacking off one of her massage clients. I don't. I mean, look, I hate Brenda so much. I find her an obnoxious character who is absolutely uninteresting. That's really the thing about her. Like, the show makes this big thing about, like, she's so interesting. She had a book written about her. She's so smart. And it's like, nothing she does in this show is interesting. Like, I don't care that, like, I think the implication is that she felt like, oh my god, commitment. Like, she has this dream about Nate like suffocating her, and she's like, I had to go jack some guy off to retain my individuality. It's like, shut the fuck up. Like, you're not interesting. No one cares about your storyline. It's just pointless. I hate her as a character. She's not fun. She's not engaging. She's not interesting in the slightest. This is not relatable. No one is like this Brenda character. Like, there's no one who looks and is like, yeah, Brenda, that's like me. Like, no one. She's such a weird character in a sense. She's from rich parents and she was studied by psychologists. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm gonna get a comment being like, oh, I actually went through something similar like Brenda did. But yeah, I just really don't like Brenda. She's just, I mean, it's, if she was even interesting, it would be okay for her to be this horrible person that she is, but she's kind of horrible and not interesting at all. So I don't know. David he breaks up with that Ben guy because he's still in love with Keith. I'm like, okay, I didn't feel like they really used this character Ben in any way. I mean, sure, it's meant to show the conflict between what David wants with Keith, but I was like, we spent like 2 episodes with him. We didn't really get to learn too much about him. Um, I just felt like it was a kind of nothing burger that didn't, unless he comes back somehow. But I just felt like that was kind of a waste of time too. So overall, an okay, slightly weak episode, but we'll see where it goes from here. So anyway, thanks for listening to this and stay tuned for the next reaction coming soon. Hey, what's up, everyone? Back with another reaction. Just watched the 7th episode, I think it is, of season 2, Back to the Garden. This one, I thought was an okay episode. I think it set some stuff up. I don't know quite how much it paid off. there's the storylines are very separate. They really have no overlap in this episode. We got Nate still dealing with his AVM, not telling Brenda for some reason. Um, going to a Jewish funeral, or they're having a Jewish funeral, and he's kind of bonding with this female rabbi who's played by it's Alma from Deadwood. All the HBO actors always cross over, including Stark Sands, who played Nate Fisk in Generation Kill. He plays the boy that Claire gets with in this episode, but we'll talk about that storyline. But Nate again is trying to figure out the meaning of life. Brenda's, fucking guys in her imagination. She's trying to find herself or blah blah blah. Let's just get the. I feel like I've been harping on and on how much I hate Brenda and hate her storyline. I really, this is how the storyline's gonna play out in my opinion. She's like all that like this commitment and stuff's freaking her out. She doesn't want to be like her parents. She doesn't know who she is, and so she's gonna like go sleep with guys to find that out. And it's either gonna break up the relationship, or maybe Nate is that much of a pushover that he'll stay with her. I don't know, but that's the storyline that's gonna happen. I already know. I mean, maybe they'll take a radically different direction. I don't know, but I see this playing out that way. I see it playing out like, we've seen her fantasizing about guys. I mean, she really cheated on Nate when she jerked that guy off, but I think she's going to go farther. She craves this kind of excitement and danger and stuff. Even at the end scene here, she was wanting Nate to like fuck her like an intruder. And he didn't want to do that. He wanted to be like lovey to her. And that bores her. So it's a boring storyline. I've seen it done before. It's played out. And yeah, if that's what they're going down here as, I'm gonna be very disappointed. I'm already disappointed, but I'm gonna be like even more so like, Jesus Christ, this is such a waste of time. The only upside is if they break up and she's not in the show anymore. That's literally all I'm hoping for at this point, that she's not in the show anymore. That would be awesome. So if we have to deal with the storyline to get there, that'd be cool. Although, oh, God knows, who knows? Maybe they'll do this storyline and she'll still be in it because they'll work on their relationship or some other bullshit that I don't want to see. But that's one storyline. David and Keith get back together. I thought it was an okay storyline. I thought the ending scene where he slept in the hospital all night while Keith was with the girl, I thought that was very sweet. Did I find it a little bit anticlimactic that like they just kind of get back together a little bit, but it's okay. It's still a nice little scene. The main meat of this episode, though, I'd say is with Claire going over to her aunt's house while she's having this hippie, drug fest kind of thing. She meets that boy. I don't know what's gonna go on with this boy. He doesn't seem that interesting. I mean, the only interesting thing was that like he's like, "Oh, I'm not interested in hooking up. I just want to find a relationship." I'm like, okay, we'll see. We'll see where this goes. That's not that interesting of a hook to make me be like, "Ooh, I can't wait to see what's going on here." It's fine, but we'll see. But I'd say the main thing, it kind of revolved around the mother, even though she wasn't in it a whole lot. I've said before, the mother reminds me a lot of Livia Soprano in the sense that she kind of complains that she's not getting any love, but she really doesn't extend it out. And in fact, she has dinner with the gay guy who works at the flower shop with her, and she's very negative about the plan because I guess she stopped liking it. And I'm like, girl, you were so sad that no one was eating dinner with you, and then when someone actually did, you shut him down immediately. And he's like, why would this person want to, like, I mean, I get it, the plan's annoying, but she's very closed off, and I think the sister says it best. She's scared of like being rejected. But it's like, yeah, she reminds me a lot of Livia, but without, it's not that she's intentionally like toxic like Livia was, but she's got that same kind of like wants to be loved but rejects it, and you can say that about a lot of these characters too. So I thought that was nice. I thought the ending where she's kind of singing along with the song, I didn't know what that meant exactly. The cassette or whatever says Sarah's song, which I guess is the sister sang it. I didn't know if that was true or not, but I didn't know what this real moment at the end meant where she's singing along with the song and Claire's watching her. I think maybe she's coming to a different understanding of her mother, but yeah, I didn't quite understand what that meant. I thought it was a nice little moment, but um, I still like the mom. I like her. I think she's a complicated character. I think Claire. I don't know how much Claire walked away from this episode being like changed or different. Um, but it's okay, I guess. And there's also a storyline with Federico, who I haven't really been talking about him. They've been doing a little storyline with him, kind of fighting with his wife and having all these problems at home. And he thinks that his cousin's sleeping with his wife, so he goes back home to check, and he finds that his cousin is gay and is sleeping and is having sex with one of the workers. And I've said this before. I don't buy this like Federico as like this old school machismo. He's not Mexican. He's Puerto Rican, but this Latino thing they doing with him. I don't buy it. It doesn't feel authentic to me. It doesn't feel like that's if that's the way that we're gonna go down with this actor, they should have cast someone else. He doesn't he comes across as like a more modern kind of guy. Like I said before, I think like if he had a problem with gay people, I think he would approach it in a more like funny, like laughing at it kind of way. Like the same way he treats like the body stuff and like fixing bodies is like, he's weirdly into it. It's like out of, it's like a unique aspect of his character how much pride he takes in fixing people up. Um but this kind of like old school macho Latino thing they're doing with him, I don't buy it. It doesn't feel authentic to me. And yeah, they go hard on it. They really actually leaned into it this season because he's fighting with his wife, or he's like, I'm to make the money, I make the decisions, I'm the man, blah blah blah. It doesn't strike me as like authentic. And I get he's under stress and pressure a lot, but um, I've not liked what they've done with Federico. I think they had this kind of unique character from the first episode where you're like, "Ooh, this guy is interesting. What's his deal?" And they went down this very predictable and kind of stale route for his character that I'm not really enjoying. So, um, yeah, it is what it is. Maybe they'll do more stuff, interesting stuff with him. But overall, I've been kind of disappointed. Just like I've been kind of disappointed this whole season. I've not really felt like any. There have been a few episodes I thought were like okay and strong, but like I feel kind of bad. This is like the first show that I'm ever like watching it, and I'm like, I don't really like what's happening. And, people are telling me good stuff, and it's not that they're not good moments throughout this thing. And people are telling me like, oh, the finale, like it's one of the greatest finales of all time. And I'm like, okay, I want to see that, but do I really want to sit through 6 seasons of like kind of mediocre writing? I gotta be honest, guys. Like, there's some like elements of really smart writing, but a lot of it's actually just mediocre. Like, if this wasn't like kind of up there talked about as like being up there with the likes of Sopranos and Deadwood and stuff like that, I don't think I'd be sticking with it. Like if this was just a normal like show that came on nowadays, I think I'd be like, oh, it's all right, but I'm not really that into it. And from what I understand, a lot of people said like they tuned out eventually too. So I think it's kind of, I'm worried that it's gonna be like this slog for the next 5 seasons. And then maybe there's a really great finale, but I don't know that like the juice is worth the squeeze. And I feel bad because I imagine the people who are watching this, you sitting there watching this, you're probably watching this video because you're a fan of 6 Feet Under. That's the only people who would watch an hour plus long reaction series to the episodes. But yeah, I almost feel bad that I'm kind of just not enjoying it that much. And like I said, there's okay elements, but there's a lot of flaws in the storytelling too. So we'll see. I don't know. I don't know where this goes. Maybe that's just the show. Who knows? We'll talk about it more as we get closer to the season 2 finale. But either way, thanks for listening, and stay tuned for the next reaction coming up. Hey, what's up, everyone? Kino here, back with another reaction. Just watched the 8th episode, I think it is, the Christmas one. It's been a year in the story since the pilot episode, because their father died a day before Christmas. So in this episode, they're all kind of remembering him. Even other characters too, like Federico. They're all remembering the dad. I will say I like these glimpses we get of the character. I sometimes wish that we had more stuff about him, like we understood him more as a character. I think they're kind of slow boiling it. I wasn't sure if we were ever going to learn more about the dad. Like maybe they just weren't going to touch on him. He's just kind of this mysterious presence, but I think we do get some insights into his character. He seemed to be a really great guy from what everyone says. So my only wonder is like, why was the mom cheating on him? Why did she feel like so emotionally neglected? Now, those two things aren't necessarily mutually exclusive, right? He could be a great guy and also not been really maybe a loving or attentive husband, but the whole thing with the mom, it seems like she really misses him and she really loved him. So I'm just wondering, like, what went wrong in their relationship to have this? Like, I honestly just kind of don't really like that plot point. Like, I think it would work better if she, like, maybe she felt neglected and stuff, or she felt trapped, or, the usual stuff with being, an older married woman like that. But the whole affair angle, I never really felt like it didn't really feel that relevant, or it didn't pay off for me that much. The guy she was with, I didn't find him that interesting. The guy she's with now, I kind of don't find that interesting, but at least he's something. Nikolai's a lot better than the hairdresser guy. I don't quite get his character. He was like, why was he a hairdresser? Why was he a hippie, outdoor kind of guy? Yeah, I just I'm not. I bet I don't know if they wrote him off for a specific reason or not, or maybe they'll bring him back, but he was definitely a little boring. And yeah, I don't think that story detail kind of really went anywhere or mattered. I think we could explore the idea of her wanting to discover who she is and live her own life without that detail. And I think it would make what we're seeing about the dad a little more like believable. Like the story would make a little bit more sense. But I don't know, maybe they'll reveal stuff about the dad in the future. But I'm just saying that like right now we're only getting glimpses into who he was. But everything we've got glimpses for seemed like really great. So I don't know. We have some storylines. The Federico storyline with his cousin, again, I still feel very unbelievable. They get into a confrontation this episode that I just felt like, what's the point of this? I mean, Federico's not. Maybe he'll learn to not be homophobic or whatever, but it just right now, the story in this episode of Federico and his cousin, he's not changed at all from it. Like maybe it'll pay off in a future episode, but I'm just saying that like he was homophobic last episode and he's still in this one, and it like there's no change. He isn't like learned like, oh, I got hit, so I shouldn't, it was wrong of me to. He's even more dug into his kind of belief, and I'm not saying he has to change, like not like stop hating, gay people or whatever. But I'm just saying that like it doesn't feel like his character is growing or changing at all in these episodes, and that's the core issue. Like if you're gonna tell a story about a character, they have to change over the course of the story. That's the only way we feel meaningful progress, and it doesn't have to be a radical thing. But I'm just saying that like I've not really felt Federico change at all or deal with change. I mean, the one thing is he kind of feels like resentful over David and Nate for not making him partner, but that's not really gone anywhere. That's not his storyline of him kind of slowly drifting away from the company. It's honestly like his storyline has become more and more removed from the family. Like there was no scenes of them together in this episode. We've not really seen them working together too often this season. So I don't think they know what they're doing with this character. I don't feel it's thematically relevant to anything else going on. There was one really great moment I loved in this. So Claire brings that boy she's dating, Toby, I guess his name is, over to Christmas dinner, and he says something I've been saying to the characters myself this whole time, which is like, why are you so fucking like hostile to everything? Why are you so cynical? Why are you so down? And I like that someone called out these characters for being like just complete dicks all the time to each other and themselves. Like I liked it was called out. So I don't know where they're gonna go with this guy. It seems like they're setting up something with Claire and Billy, which I hope that doesn't happen. For drama's sake, maybe it makes sense. Because of what's going on. Like they're introducing Billy back into the story, but yeah, it's gross. I don't like it. I'm glad Nate was like angry about it. I'm glad he's actually being a brother to her. Um, Nate and Brenda cheats again. I I mean, it's an interesting episode because at least like Nate was sort of calling her out. It's clear. I think the characters both kind of understand that there's something wrong in their relationship and they're not happy. And I was wondering if they're ever going to address it, because if they don't address it, then I'm like, I don't think that they know about it. But it's clear that Nate does kind of get the sense that like she's not really into their relationship as much as he is. He tells her about the AVM because he has a seizure later, and they get into a fight over Billy. So at least there's some elements where I'm like, okay, they realize the shit's kind of fucked up. Now is the question of like, will this pay off in a meaningful way? Will they change because of this? Will this conflict that's been brewing between them actually come to a head? And I hope it does. Like I said, I still don't like Brenda. I don't like her character, but if we can get some good story moments out of it, that would be something. So we'll have to see where the story goes from here. But I was happy at least like we're seeing some like, rather than having them drift apart and not acknowledge it at all, we're addressing like some of this stuff. We have a handful more episodes to go, so who knows how the season's gonna shake out. But I hope there's an actual payoff. That's my biggest worry, is that like there's not gonna be a payoff to a lot of this stuff, and we're just wasting time. So either way, we'll see. Thanks all for listening to this, and stay tuned for the next one coming up. Hey, what's up, everyone? Back with another reaction. Just watched the 9th episode of season 2. And this one was interesting in that we have a reveal. I thought it was a kind of a cheap reveal that like Nate slept with that woman in Seattle, the one he was roommates with, and they had sex before. And it turns out she's pregnant. She moved to LA for the job, and she's pregnant with Nate's child. And I'm like, on the one hand, that's a dramatic beat. So I was like, okay, cool. We needed some much needed drama and tension. On the other hand, I thought that was kind of cheap to just be like, oh, this thing happened off screen that you didn't get to see. Now, sure, we saw them having a moment together, but maybe it's just me. Maybe I should have realized that they slept together. I didn't. I think they could have hinted at that stronger or shown it, and then we would have this in our head. Then Nate cheated on Brenda too. Brenda cheats on him in this episode too, but I felt that was kind of like, oh, this thing happened off screen that you didn't know about, and now we're gonna reveal it. So that wasn't the best way I think they could have handled it, but it does add something to the story, and now we're like, oh, what's gonna happen? Brenda sleeps with some writer or something, I don't know. Brenda, they both cheated now, so it's like, fuck both of them, I guess. But Nate was obviously really vulnerable from his diagnosis, and Brenda is just, I don't know. I don't think you can justify either one. Like, it doesn't matter what you're going through. Like, it's you have a responsibility not to act that way. Um, but I just, oh god, I hate how Brenda is like, she's she's disguising it under this level of like, oh, I'm finding myself bullshit, and it's just like, it's so fucking annoying. Like, yeah, Nate's bad for cheating too, but at least he's not dumping it through this lens of like this pretentious bullshit. But I don't know, whatever. That's one storyline. I really hope this comes to a head and they break up. I really, although since they both cheated now, maybe they're gonna be like, we finally reveal the truth to each other and we can learn how to get through this together, kind of thing, and they'll stay together. Which, oh god, I can't handle 4 or 5 more seasons of this. But that's one storyline. The mother's Russian boyfriend owes money to the Russian mafia. I feel like that storyline just kind of okay. It's not really advancing the mother's character this episode. David with Keith is like, I don't even know what his storyline is. It's like there's sort of fighting, but they're also sort of not. It's like really weird, the storyline with David and Keith. Like, it doesn't feel like it's moving at all. It feels like there's conflict, but it's not really like real conflict. Obviously Keith is dealing with his sister with the drugs, but yeah, him and David has felt like a not a character lately. Like, I've not felt him grow or change at all in these last few episodes. The sister has something with Billy. It seems like she's developing feelings for this guy. I don't like it. It seemed for a moment that she was gonna stop being into him, but then I think at the end when she saw the pictures and like how vulnerable he is, probably makes her like him again. I will say I like the scene between him and Brenda where he called out how toxic their relationship is. So that was cool. Overall though, yeah, I mean, it's the most interesting stuff was definitely the Nate and the baby thing, even though I don't think it was handled as properly as it could have been. We have some stuff with Federico, not this episode. I've been forgetting to mention Federico's storyline because it's like, it feels so inconsequential. That's what a lot of the seasons felt like. Everything feels like a lot of it just does not really matter. And Federico is dealing with the fact that his cousin was gay. And he's again very homophobic to that. In this episode he has lunch with the Russian guy. Don't really know what the point of this scene was. I mean, it's okay to have characters interact, but usually it's like, if we're going to write scenes of a characters interacting, especially like Nikolai and Federico, who are like so disparate, it's like, we should have a moment of like character development with them. Like, you would think that like, oh, Nikolai asked him about the punch, and you would think Federico would take the opportunity to be like, oh, my cousin's gay and I'm homophobic, I don't like that or whatever. And then Nikolai could maybe talk with him about it, and maybe being a Russian, he's, kind of sympathetic to that point of view, but maybe he also kind of challenges Federico and is like, what does it matter? It's your cousin, or, character building stuff. What was the point of the scene of just having them eat together? Federico's kind of annoyed and nothing happens. Maybe we'll have another scene later on, I don't know, but like, we could use these moments of character interaction to actually develop and change the characters, but a lot of time we're not. Like, there's just so much, it feels like there's so much wasted time in these episodes, and the focus really is not on like strong character writing. There are some moments of that. I thought the scene with Billy and Claire where he's talking about the myth of Narcissus, where we get the word narcissism from. I thought he had a great line about him where he's like, it's not that he's in love with himself, he hates himself. It's just that without his reflection, he doesn't exist. I thought that was a very poignant line. So we have some moments of stuff about, and that was a good scene because again, you get some insight into these characters more and what they're going through and where they are in the story in this moment. But it feels like there's a lot of fluff in this show too, and I'm just like, what's going on here? Yeah, it's like I said before, it's hard to make myself really excited about this show because while there are a few good elements, there's just a lot of eh between for the whole episodes, and everyone's telling me the finale, so we'll see if we get there. But for now, thanks for listening to these, and stay tuned for the next one coming up. Hey, what's up, everyone? Just watched the 10th episode of season 2, The Secret. I actually thought this one was a stronger episode in terms of like, oh, a bunch of stuff actually happened. And characters moved and changed over this episode. In ways that I felt like I would have liked it if we had paced some of this stuff out a little bit rather than having one big episode where a lot of stuff moves. I think it would have made the season better if we had paced some of this stuff out. But yeah, there were a lot of dramatic beats this episode. Carla, David's sister, kills someone. She gets arrested, and the daughter has to go live with her. David and Keith are having problems. Problems I felt were a little contrived, like a little like they didn't feel super believable, but in some ways I thought they were like, okay. I don't know where they're quite going with this. Is if this is going to continue to escalate and they might break up again, or if they'll deal with it somehow. It feels like they're not fully committing to like the problems of their relationship. Like Keith, like they've been doing a lot with Keith. I will say this, his kind of anger, his emotion, but they don't commit to it where it's like he's becoming really destructive and toxic or whatever, which I feel like they could have, and that would probably make it stronger. But they're just kind of like tiptoeing around it, and the issues they have that David has in a relationship, I felt were kind of like, I get it, but it's like it doesn't feel that real to me. It's like, oh, he's a perfectionist, and oh, he likes things his way, and they kind of hint at the larger problems that should be going on with him. The fact that he killed some guy and he's like emotionally torn up about it, and the fact of his sister. But I just felt like they're not fully committing to this idea, not really like going down the route of him being very self-destructive, which I felt would be a stronger kind of storyline for him. So I felt overall David and Keith's storyline a little hit and miss. There's some good elements there, but it doesn't like fully commit. Brenda's being a whore again, and she finally has a confrontation about it. I was really annoyed with her in this episode until we got to the ending, and I still annoyed with her, but I was like, oh, okay, at least the series is calling out how hypocritical she is. She goes to a sex party and has sex with some more people because, God, because she's like, all you fucking judo Christian bullshit. Like I'm above this, and it's like, I like that she has this moment with the mom that I felt was actually really strong. Because my mom's been dealing with Nikolai, and I was like, this storyline, like I didn't really feel it was that strong. I wasn't getting a lot from it. It sort of it paid off in this moment though, because the mom's realizing that one of the reasons why she can't, like, she doesn't feel connected and loved by people is because she kind of smothers them sometimes. I don't think that's fully the issue. I think there's more problems than just that. But I like that after her fight with Nikolai, not really a fight, but like this kind of disconnect they have, she actually really opens up to Brenda, who she admires for not being so like emotionally needy and stuff like that, and is like very warm and embracing to her. Is like, hey, I love you, like I admire you, I admire how much of a free spirit you are. I kind of resented you, but there's something about you that I admire and I want to be like. And this moment of like pure compassion and love for her made Brenda realize what a whore she's been, and like she breaks up with her friend and is like, it's all your fault, I've been doing this, I can't be doing this is not healthy. Like it's a wake-up call for her. I still don't like her. Don't get me wrong, but it was a nice moment of like character development here, where it's like, man, one moment of genuine support from someone and genuine caring caused her to realize how destructive she's been and want to change. Will she change and really commit to there? I don't know, but I just thought that was a very strong character moment, and I felt like it was a real payoff for their two kind of storylines, even though they're very separate. I thought that, like, okay, yes, that's good writing. That's what I want to see. I want to see characters' actions actually change who they are and grow, and we can mix and match storylines and have them come together like this. They don't always do that on this show, but in this one they actually did. I thought that was strong. Nate and the woman who he's having a child with, Lisa. I thought that was a pretty strong ending. I think Nate's being called out for how selfish he is at times. It's funny. I didn't. They call him selfish in this episode. The Lisa does, and I think it's true to an extent. I've not really felt him being selfish throughout most of the show. I felt him being very this season especially very withdrawn and very like not wanting to share things with people, and I think it's probably because of his AVM. He yells at the sister. I thought was very uncharacteristic. But I suppose, yeah, it is kind of selfishness on an extent. I think that does kind of jive with his character, the fact that he runs away from responsibility, and even when he does embrace responsibility, it's kind of selfishly. So I thought that was actually a strong moment too, character wise. And man, God, do I feel so bad for Claire. Like, she is so depressed, and none of the family is dealing with it properly. The therapist dad, the one who's like a kind of an asshole, like Brenda's dad, like straight up tells Ruth that like Claire is depressed, and it's like, what are you doing about this? And like, nothing. She refuses to acknowledge it. His family's so withdrawn, so like closed off that they can't deal with this. But she's so depressed, and I'm really worried something's gonna happen to this girl. Knowing what I know about the backstory of the creator, I feel so bad for her. She's not getting any support anywhere. Her friends leaving her, and she had something she genuinely tried to pursue, this photography thing, and no one is showing any concern for it or respect for it. And even the aunt, I felt like they did this thing where the aunt was so supportive in that first episode she was introduced, and then when it got to her house, she was like kind of not really that supportive. She's kind of in her own world too, and I was just like, no one's looking out for this girl. She had something she was passionate about and loved, and it got shot down. And I think she's just yeah, she's depressed. That is the best way to describe it. And I hope it doesn't turn to something tragic, because I just feel so sorry for this girl. Like, she's so withdrawn from the world, and you can understand why from this family. But overall, I thought The Secret was a very strong episode. A lot of great character moments here. I just wish we had seen some of this quality of writing in the previous episodes. I think I would have appreciated that more. But who knows? Maybe the season will pick up. I don't know. If we have a very strong finish to this season, it might make me want to keep watching, because I'll be honest, the first 9 episodes, I was dreading watching this show. I was like, I don't want to check it out. But episodes like this actually make you go, okay, you got something here. Let's just see how you execute. Sorry, I hit the mic, but either way, thanks for listening to this, and stay tuned for the next reaction coming up. Hey, what's up, everyone? Back with the next reaction. Just watched the 11th episode of season 2, The Liar and the Whore. An interesting episode. I will say I felt this episode had some problems. They get sued by the woman who was beaten by her husband, and Nate showed her the body, and it was all torn up. And it's a lawsuit that I think it's sort of engineered by Kroger to bankrupt them. I felt like they resolved it way too quickly. Like they introduce in this episode, and then David goes and has a conversation where he confronts her about what's really the problem is that she's been a doormat, she's been abused her entire life, and this is a way of deflecting responsibility for being a victim, which I don't I don't know if I necessarily agree with that to an extent of all people, but it's clear that David was touching on something with this woman and she dropped the lawsuit, which I was like, if you're just gonna like, I don't understand this point of introducing this plot point if you're just gonna drop it. Now maybe it'll come back up. Maybe the lawsuit's not really done. Maybe she'll change her mind and she'll sue again or something. But if this is the storyline for if this is the story of that lawsuit, then I was like very like they need to let stuff kind of play out a little bit more. They resolve stuff way too quickly. It does sort of connect to David, not wanting to be a doormat himself, and then kind of going back to what's going on with Keith and the kid. But yeah, it's just like, why introduce this plot point if you're just gonna drop it? There's a lot of stuff like that in this show. Federico and his gay cousin in this episode, it seems like this storyline might continue on for a little bit. Vanessa gets fired from her job because Federico noticed that the woman had a hot dog shoved down her throat. She was murdered. So I don't know where they're gonna go with this, if this is gonna be a big thing. But I felt his storyline this whole season has been very like, it's just stuff that happens, but it's not really advancing any kind of character work. But we got, the episode's more stuff with Nate and Brenda. He tells her about the baby. She goes and fucks two other guys again, and then she takes him back, but she doesn't tell him about the sex. And I'm just like, I hate this character so much. It's not the cheating, it's the absolute hypocrisy of this woman. And I get that that's kind of the point, but it's just not fun to watch. This isn't like Sopranos. There's fun ways to watch hypocrites. There's like, oh, you're a hypocrite. It's fun to watch you kind of, not realize it and stuff like that. But with Brenda, I'm just like, I hate this character. I do not want to watch her anymore. It's not fun. It's just depressing. And yeah, I don't have anything more to say about this. Like, I think it's gonna come out eventually. But where it goes from here, I really don't know. I kind of think she's like main cast, so it's like, are they gonna write her out of the show? I don't think so. I have this fear she's gonna continue on to be a part of the show, and I just can't stand it. Claire takes mushrooms. We got some good stuff with Claire this episode. I think her kind of dealing with her relationship with her mother, the mother kind of being codependent and paying off Nikolai and stuff like that. Overall, there was some interesting moments here. But I'm just like, God, I just hate Brenda so much. And it's ruining the whole show for me. I just wish she wasn't a part of it. There's so much more interesting stuff we could do, even with Nate, too. I feel like the focus on Brenda takes away from Nate's character, where it's like, we could be exploring. He doesn't feel like the protagonist of the show. He doesn't feel like the main character, because his whole, like, story and personality revolves around Brenda rather than them, they're doing this thing where he's selfish and he's self-centered or whatever, but we don't actually ever get to feel that, because he's oftentimes actually like being a good, caring boyfriend to Brenda. We don't actually ever get to. It's like imagine Tony Soprano, but he spends all his time taking care of Carmela and actually being good, and we never get to spend time with him being selfish or self-centered or whatever. Like, we could have seen more examples of that instead of this just kind of being like a background thing that we're told about. We don't actually see Nate being that selfish on the show. It's just stuff that's happened in the past, stuff with previous girlfriends, stuff with Lisa. The sex with Lisa happened off screen. But when we actually are moment to moment with Nate in the show, he's usually being extremely caring towards people. And it's like, it's this weird disconnect where he doesn't really feel like a really fleshed out character, because all the complicated stuff about him is stuff that happened off screen, and when he's on screen, he's just this generally nice guy. So, yeah, this show is a mess. It really is. Like, I don't know. I'm waiting for these finales that everyone keeps telling. I mean, mostly people tell me about the series finale, but sometimes the season finale will tie stuff up. But man, I'm waiting for these moments to tell me like, oh no, this is all going to tie together neatly, and I don't think it's coming. I really think the show is a mess and flawed and is not executed properly. Got some good characters, some good moments here, but it's not a cohesive like package. Like, we'll see where we go from here. I keep saying that every time, but yeah, it's just how I feel. So either way, we'll finish off this season and see where we go from here. But thanks everyone for listening to this, and stay tuned for the next one coming up. Hey, what's up everyone? Kino here. Just watched the 12th episode of season 2. I actually thought this was a pretty good episode. There was actually some payoff to some of the stuff here. The big thing I had to get out of the way real quick is Nate and Brenda break up because he finds out that she's been fucking some guys. Not even he doesn't really even find out about all the guys, just the two she had a threesome with, the surfer guys. And it's like I'm really happy on one hand that they broke up, but I have this sneaking fear that like they're gonna get back together next episode, and I'm just telling you guys right now, if they do that, I might not watch the rest of the show. I cannot deal with another 3 seasons of Brenda being in the show. I hate her more than I hate Margaret from Boardwalk Empire, and I hate her more than I hate Lalo from Better Call Saul. So if you know me, you know how serious this is. Like, there has never been a character in a show who's elicited this like genuine hatred that I feel towards this character. Like, this must be how people feel about like Skylar White, and I know I always make fun of those people to be like, it's a TV show, how do you hate them? Like, I hate her so fucking much because it's not just that she's completely unlikable. It's not just that. It's that she's unlikable and she's also boring. There's nothing interesting about this character. And Nate kind of like, he puts to voice what I feel about this character. He's like, boo hoo, you weird stuff happened to you. Weird stuff happens to everyone. Stop using it as an excuse to act like not a nice word. So the show is at least aware of it, but it doesn't matter that you lampshade the fact that she's awful. Just don't write her that way. Make her interesting. I don't care that she cheats on him or whatever. Like, I know there's like a lot of guys out there who are like, when they see a woman cheating, they're like, death upon them. And it's like, no, that doesn't really bother me or anything. It's just, she's just so fucking boring, and there's so much story dedicated to her that it ruins this show for me. So if they write her out, I will happily continue to watch this show. If I'm going to be subjected to more of this, I'm seriously going to consider not finishing the show. And I know that's going to be heartbreaking to some of you. You're like, no, well, the finale is great. We will see. We will see if I can stomach more seasons of her. We had some more stuff with Federico this episode, of some good stuff. We got some background on why he became a funeral worker. I don't even know what his title is. Like, he's not the funeral director like Nate. He's the guy who works on the bodies. But, we learned his backstory with the dad and stuff like that. So I thought that was really good. I will say, though, I thought that they introduce they do this a lot. They introduce like a plot point, and then it seems like they're going to build conflict off of it, and then they just drop it. The example in this episode is the woman who died is someone he knows. It's an old lady, and she leaves his family her life savings, which was $150,000. And you think that like, oh, okay, there's going to be conflict with the son, who's like an asshole, like her son, he's like a dick. And you're like, oh, this is going to be some drama they're going to milk out of this. But they just kind of resolve it. They're just like, well, I guess, you knew her better than I did, so go ahead, take the money. Maybe they'll deal with this next episode or something, but I'm just like, the show does this a lot where they introduce a potential plot point, a potential source of drama and character development, and then they just drop it. Same thing with the gay cousin of Federico. His storyline has just been really not focused at all this season, and it's been very disappointing because we saw with the backstory in this episode, we have some potential with this character. We have some potential to understand him more and grow and develop him, but they just really don't take it. There's more stuff with Claire and more of her age inappropriate relationships. Billy Chenoweth is into her. I think she's kind of into the guidance counselor. Completely inappropriate. We'll see where they go with her. I hope she gets into her art school, but I don't know. Maybe she won't get in for drama's sake. I don't know. But the big reveal also too this episode is the mother breaks up with that Russian guy. Well, really, he's breaking up with her. He just kind of feels obligated to stay with her, and it's very heartbreaking because this woman wants to be loved and needed so badly. But at the end of the episode, that girl Lisa tells her, "Hey, you got a grandkid," and she goes over and like holds the baby, and it's just really a nice moment, and you're like, oh, this is gonna be her new purpose, kind of taking care of or helping with this grandkid. So, yeah, I thought that we'll see how next episode goes because we've got a lot of balls in the air here. We'll see if they land them all into a cohesive, very thematic ending. But overall, I thought it was a relatively solid episode with a lot of payoff to some storylines that have been honestly dragging for a while here. So, anyway, thanks for watching this, and I'm just gonna go watch the final episode and report back right now. Hey, what's up, everyone? Kino here. Just watched the final episode of season 2. And oh man, what a what a cock tease. I really don't like it when they leave it on this cliffhanger. I will say this episode, they did a good job of ramping up the tension of what's gonna happen to Nate in his surgery, because at first you kind of think that oh, he's the main character, he's not gonna die, but then you start thinking to yourself well, it's HBO, right? They could kill off the main character. And honestly, if he did die, that seems like a natural kind of dramatic beat for this show. The show deals with death all the time, so it's well, if he did die, then I could believe that. And in fact, I thought when they do the white light, that's usually when a character dies, and I was oh my god, they're gonna the white light's gonna appear, and then it's gonna be Nathaniel Fisher Jr. and then his timeline. And I was oh my god, wouldn't that be such a twist? They didn't do that. At least we don't know that yet. It ends on the surgery, so it looks like he's getting on the bus. I don't know if he 100% died or not. That's what I'm saying. I'm I will say this: if he did die and they didn't tell us this episode, I'm actually gonna be a little mad, because I'm you teased this out because you wanted to set up another season, and I'm I think that if he did die, they should have done what I said: just put his name up there and end the episode right there, and people would have been that would have been a very satisfying dramatic beat. Not satisfying because I want Nate to die, but oh my god, that's one of those endings you're oh my god, I would appreciate that so much. But if he didn't die, well, then we'll continue on the story. I don't know that. I literally don't know if he's alive or not. I have not seen other things about the show. So I'm probably going to watch the next one right now just so I know, because I feel if I post this before I watch the next ones, someone might spoil it, and I kind of want to know. Yeah, that was a good episode. I really like the family coming all together. I will say it highlights some problems I've been feeling. The scene with David and Claire together. I'm this is the first time they spoken all season. We do not have a lot of family interactions in this show, which I think is kind of the point. They all feel very lonely, so maybe that's intentional. But I would have liked to see more interactions between the family members. Federico is going to be a partner. I have not found his story very compelling this season. Kroner went out of business apparently, and I'm like, wow, they just dropped that plot point. That's what I'm saying. I keep talking about the fact that they drop these plot points. Like, they don't let them come to their natural conclusion. They just kind of like, Kroner's a threat. And a couple episodes later, oh, wait, no, never mind, they're not. It's like, pick a lane here. Either commit to it or don't commit to it. I felt Keith's storyline, I felt that very unsatisfying. I felt like, oh, we're building to something here with like, I thought Keith was going to hit David. I thought like, oh my God, that would be such like this like dramatic beat showing he's become like his father. And then they just have sex. And I'm just like, that sucked. That was not a satisfying conclusion to the problems they've been having. Um, yeah, this show's a mess. Like, it has so many problems. Like, really good moments here and there. But like, yeah, just like the storytelling is just not good sometimes. It's not like awful. It's just like non-existent. Like, they just don't do certain like storylines just stop midway through and they don't like commit to like paying off dramatic beats. Like, they don't pay off like the conflicts that they're setting up. Yeah, I felt like, okay, I mean, I'm sure we're gonna deal with it more next season, but I'm just like, a season is supposed to be a cohesive unit, and it's like a storyline should have a natural payoff within the confines of this season. I'm not saying you can't continue on storylines and do stuff off there, but it's like imagine if Breaking Bad at the end of season 2, that big thing doesn't actually happen. Like, let's say it just ends with like Walt just sitting there. So I'm trying not to spoil it, but like, you get what I'm saying. Like, imagine if we don't actually pay off certain storylines at the end of a season. It's just like, what was the point of any of this, you know? Um, oh, the one good thing I will say is it looks like Brenda's leaving. They had a scene with Nate and Brenda where I was like, oh my God, they're going to get back together and I'm not going to keep watching after this. And they left the door open for that. He's like, I don't know. And I'm like, ugh, they're going to get back together. Nate, if you take her back, you're so fucking pathetic. But she packs up her shit and she leaves. So I have a feeling she's either not going to be in the show moving forward, or she's not going to be with Nate, at least for a while. And I can kind of deal with it if she's not with Nate. Like, even if I have to watch scenes of her finding herself or whatever their bullshit storyline they're going to do, I might be able to get through that. But I can't get through it if it's another season of Brenda Nate relationship. I just can't. So, yeah, I walked away from this episode being like, okay, I'll check out one more season. So I'm gonna probably watch the next one right now just because I had to know what happens with Nate. Probably won't keep watching much beyond that one for right now. I'll take a little break, but yeah, it's this season really highlights the flaws of this show for me. It's like some great moments in between a lot of nothingness, a lot of failed storylines, failed payoffs, inconsistent characterizations. I will say it does seem like the show can do a finale. Like, it can create tension and create like an emotional, like, oh my God, I feel so sad and stuff like that. So I could see why people are telling me like, oh, the final episode's so good. I can believe that just from what I've seen so far. I just am concerned about the rest of the show. It doesn't, the writing for the rest of the season doesn't seem up there. It just seems like they're able to just create these kind of emotional finales that I don't think a finale, just like, even if you have a great finale, if the rest of the show is not that great, then it's like, what was I even doing here? Like, the whole thing has to be great. So we'll see. I'll watch the next season and report back. But thank you all for watching these reactions, and stay tuned for the next season coming up.